Namaskar, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Pradeep Gokhale. I am from Central University of Tibetan Studies, Sarnath. This particular module is entitled Introduction to Anumana Pramana. In fact, the whole course on Indian logic is related to Anumana Pramana. We are going to study Anumana Pramana in the way in which its theorization developed historically. In a way, it was, you can say that it was a kind of interaction between Nyaya and Buddhism. They were the two main figures in this controversy. And in Indian philosophy as a whole, every philosophical system has an epistemology. In that epistemology, they accept some pramanas, and Anumana Pramana is one of the most important pramanas which is accepted by almost all the systems of Indian philosophy. Only there are two exceptions, you can say. One is Charvaka, one sub-school of Charvakas which accepts only perception as pramana and denies Anumana Pramana, and the other which is accepted as sub-school of Charvakas by some, and that is the skeptical school, which was introduced by Jayarashi Bhatta, who denied all pramanas. So, except these two, all systems of Indian philosophy accept Anumana as pramana. And now, in English generally the word Anumana is translated as inference, but there is a distinction between Anumana and inference which is sometimes is not taken into account. In the case of Anumana in Indian tradition, we have a distinction between Swarthanumana and Pararthanumana. And this distinction is translated into English as inference for oneself and inference for others. But actually in Western logic, we do not have any such distinction, namely inference for oneself and inference for others, because every inference is necessarily presented in the form of an argument, and it has a propositional form. Whereas when we are talking about Anumana for oneself, for example, is not necessarily propositional in nature, it is not necessarily argumentative in nature, but certainly it is a kind of cognition, it is knowledge, it can be understood as indirect knowledge. So, it is more a part of epistemology than of logic, whereas when we talk about inference for others or Pararthanumana, we can say that Pararthanumana is necessarily of argumentative form, and therefore, when we talk about Anumana, we have to consider its epistemological aspect as well as its logical aspect. When we are talking about Swarthanumana, we are mainly concerned with epistemological aspect. When we are talking about Pararthanumana, we are concerned with its logical aspect. And therefore, we can say that the distinction between Swarthanumana and Pararthanumana is not between something like arguing for oneself and arguing with others. Now, the word Anumana is derived from Anu plus Ma. By Ma, the verb Ma, we understand cognition or knowing, and Anu means Paschat. So, it is knowing something after having known something. That is, it all necessarily precedes perception, and after perceptual knowledge, we can have Anumana, which is indirect knowledge based on perception. Now, although most of the systems accept Anumana as pramana, and we have seen that Anumana can be understood as indirect knowledge, that does not mean that all systems identify indirect knowledge with Anumana Pramana. Some of the systems accept indirect knowledge as a broad category, and under that indirect knowledge, Anumana is one of the pramanas and not the only pramana. For example, Sankhya, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Jainism, these schools accept indirect knowledge and Anuman as one of the pramanas under that, but they also accept other forms of indirect knowledge such as verbal testimony and Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi and so on. But there are two schools which accept only two pramanas, and therefore, in those schools indirect knowledge is identified with Anumana Pramana, and they are Vaisheshika and Buddhism. They accept only Pratyaksha and Anumana, and they identify Anumana with indirect knowledge. Now, how is Anumana understood? Generally, whenever there is a discussion of Anumana in Indian tradition, we talk of the example of inferring fire on the top of a hill on the basis of smoke. So, a person saw a line of smoke on the top of a hill, then she remembered that when in the kitchen fire was produced for cooking food, smoke used to come out of the fire. She had not seen smoke anywhere except where there was fire. So, it occurred to her there must be fire on the hill. This knowledge of fire on the hill is indirect knowledge. It is the Anumana. So, technically in Nyaya this will be called the resultant cognition will be called Anumiti rather than Anumana. So, for Nyaya this distinction is important. Anumana refers more to the process or the means through which this resultant knowledge is achieved, whereas Anumiti is the resultant knowledge. And then there are other important terms. One is Linga and Lingin, that is sign or mark is called Linga, and that which is signified by that sign or mark is called Lingin. So, in this case smoke is the Linga and fire is Lingin. And then when one infers that there is fire on the hill, it is based on the knowledge of the relation between smoke and fire. Now, this relation between smoke and fire was later on called invariable concomitance, that is Vyapti. When one argues on the basis of this knowledge and presents smoke, which is the sign or mark, then that becomes Hetu, that is reason, and that can also be called sadhana, that is logical ground or evidence or probans, and that which is inferred is then called sadhya, that is the object of proof or target of inferential knowledge, or it is also called probandum. So, these are the various terms used in English for hetu and sadhya. Act of proving is done with reference to what is called property bearer and property, that is dharmin and dharma. That is when one proves that there is fire on the hill, hill is supposed to be the property bearer and fire is supposed to be the property which is to be proved, and it is proved on the basis of another property, namely smoke. So, smoke and fire are the properties of the hill. One of the properties is proved on the basis of another property, and one has seen the two properties as the properties of the kitchen. So, kitchen can be regarded as Drishtanta Dharmi and hill can be regarded as Sadhya Dharmi. So, both are dharmis, whereas smoke and fire are dharmas. And then the Vyapti statement will have this form that if any dharmin has hetu dharma, then it also must have sadhya dharma. And on the basis of this general rule she has formed, she immediately knows that there must be the sadhya dharma, namely fire, on that particular dharmin, namely the hill. Now, in the history what has happened is that in initial stage, that is in the stage of Gautama's Nyaya Sutra, and also you can say Nyaya Bhashya, which was written by Vatsyayana, Anumana was presented in the form of argument, all right, but that argument was more like analogical reasoning rather than valid reasoning. So, for that we will have to consider the 5 steps of argument that Gautama presented, which were called Panchavayavi, 5 avayavas. So, first one was called Pratijna or declaration, that there is fire on the hill. Then the reason is given, because there is smoke. Then instance is given, udaharana is given, like in the kitchen. When that what one has seen in udaharana is applied. So, next step is application or upanaya, that is the smoke on the hill is also like that, and then there is a conclusion, that is nigamana, therefore, there is fire on the hill. Now, we will find that in this particular form of argument, there is no statement of the form wherever there is smoke there is fire, and that type of statement, which is called Vyapti statement, was included later on, and then by including that statement we can say that the inferential statement or the argument becomes a kind of valid inference. Otherwise, if that statement is not there, then the inference will more look like an analogical reasoning rather than valid reasoning. So, now when we talk about inference as analogical reasoning, this drishtanta becomes very important, that is analogy, and this analogy could be either positive analogy or negative analogy. That is, if inference is based on positive analogy, then it will be based on similarity, and inference is, if it is based on negative analogy, then it will be based on dissimilarity. So, sometimes both similarity and dissimilarity both are used for inferring. For example, in this smoke fire instance, we can say that smoke is a point of similarity between hill and kitchen, but the smoke, the same smoke is the point of dissimilarity between between a lake full of water where no fire is there and no smoke is there, and hill. So, in this way the inference will be based on similarity and dissimilarity, and therefore, it will be more like analogical reasoning. In fact, some scholars maintain that in the early stage of Indian logic, Anumana was understood as a kind of analogical reasoning, and then gradually Dharmakirti, he insisted that Anumana cannot be based on just observation and non-observation, but it should be a kind of valid reasoning, and therefore, there should be a Vyapti statement which is universal and necessary statement. Whereas, we find that Naiyayikas in their commentaries and sub-commentaries started arguing that this so called invariable concomitance or Vyapti was already accepted even in the initial stage of Nyaya. Anyway, I mean, that is a matter of historical debate. Now, as we have seen, the two property bearers which we are comparing here are Paksha and Drishtanta. So, they are the two dharmins or property bearers, and suppose we are considering this positive instance and Paksha, that is say kitchen and hill, then we can say that smoke is the point of similarity between the two, and on the basis of this similarity, namely smoke, we are inferring another similarity, namely fire. That is, in the case of Drishtanta, we have seen both the points of similarity together, that is smoke and fire, but on the hill we have seen only smoke, and on the basis of that we are saying that there must be another similarity, namely fire also. So, this difference is marked by calling kitchen as Drishtanta and hill as Paksha. Now, similarly, on the basis of difference also one can argue, in which case in the waterful lake we have not seen smoke, whereas on the hill we are seeing smoke. So, smoke becomes the point of difference between the two things, namely Paksha and the negative instance, and on the basis of this difference we infer another difference, namely in the waterful lake we have not seen fire. So, on the hill there must be fire. So, here kitchen is called Anvaya Drishtanta or Sadharmya Drishtanta, and lake is called Vyatireka Drishtanta or Vaidharmya Drishtanta. Now, the later on when Vyapti was introduced, that then it was not just a kind of analogical reasoning, but it became a kind of valid reasoning. And there now what is the nature of Vyapti? So, now the logicians found that just availability of positive instances where Hetu and Sadhya coexist, and negative instances where Hetu and Sadhya are co-absent, that is not sufficient. There should be non-availability of counter example, that is, there should not be any situation where Hetu exists, but Sadhya does not exist. That situation is called Vyabhichara, and this Vyabhichara or deviation, which is the nature of the counter example, that should not be available. If counter example is available, then the inference will be fallacious, and that fallacy will be called Savyabhichara or Anaikrantika. And then later on we find that Vyapti itself was defined as the relation devoid of Vyabhichara, Avyabhicharitas Sambandha, that was the definition of Vyapti. So, after these initial Nyaya theory of inference, which we find in Nyaya Sutra and Nyaya Bhashya, we have from Buddhist side we have Dignaga, who tried to systematize it in the form of triple character of Hetu, which was also called Trairupya of Hetu. And we also find that side by side in Vaisheshika system, in Prashastapada Bhashya, we have the similar theory, that is Trairupya model of Hetu. But the next stage was that even this Trairupya is not sufficient, but we should have a kind of necessary and universal relation. The relation between Hetu and Sadhya should not be just restricted to Sapaksha and Vipaksha, that is similar cases and dissimilar cases. That is in our observed world, when we see smoke, we also see fire. When we don't see fire, we don't see smoke. That is not sufficient, but there should be an unconditional universal relation between Hetu and Sadhya. And when this Vyapti was introduced, then Nayayikas did not throw away their Panchavayavi Vakya, in which Drishtanta was one of the elements, but they retained that model of 5 steps, but within those 5 steps they introduced Vyapti as a part of Udaharana. So, in the new formulation of Udaharana, the positive instance, that is Sadharmya Udaharana or Sadharmya Drishtanta, was presented as wherever there is smoke there is fire, like in the kitchen. So, earlier it was just like in the kitchen, but now wherever there is smoke there is fire, like in the kitchen. Similarly, negative instance was presented as wherever there is no fire there is no smoke, like in a lake. Now, Nayayikas made another important move in the theory of Anumana. They introduced the notion of Paramarsha, which was a link between the recollection of Vyapti and resultant inferential knowledge. So, in this way we can say that they somehow adjusted with the 5-membered syllogism on the one hand, 5-membered inferential statement, that is on the one hand, and the process of knowledge on the other hand. Inferential knowledge, that is indirect knowledge, takes place. They explain this process in terms of 4 steps. The first step is hetu jnana, that is one sees say smoke on the mountain, that is, and that is also called paksha dharmata jnana, that is hetu is the dharma of paksha and paksha here is the hill. So, one sees that smoke is the dharma of the hill, that is the first step. The second step is called vyapti smarana, recollection of vyapti, that is one remembers, one recollects that wherever there is smoke there is fire, or the negative form of vyapti, wherever there is absence of fire there is absence of smoke. So, the third step is conjunctive cognition or synthetic cognition, which conjoins the object of the 2 cognitions, that is first one is paksha dharmata jnana or hetu jnana, and the second is vyapti smarana, and the 2 objects of the 2 cognitions are conjoined, and then one says that here there is smoke which is pervaded by fire, and then in the fourth step one has the resultant knowledge, that is therefore there is fire on the hill, or that there is fire on the hill. Then at that stage Naiyayikas define pramana as a means or instrument of prama, and therefore this distinction between prama and pramana becomes very important for Naiyayikas, and in the case of anumana it will be between anumiti and anumana. So, anumana will be regarded as pramana and anumiti will be the resultant knowledge, that is prama. The anumiti results through anumana, and then the question arises what is anuman. So, karana or means is defined as that which produces the effect through an operation, through some kind of vyapara. Now, with regard to inference, anumana pramana is the means or instrument of anumiti. Now, we have seen that there are 4 stages. One is hetu jnana, vyapti smarana, paramarsha and anumiti. Now, the last stage is anumiti. So, what could be the means to that anumiti? So, they say that the second stage, that is vyapti smarana, can be the means to anumiti because it produces anumiti through vyapara, and that vyapara can be called paramarsha. Whereas some Naiyayikas use a different concept of karana. Accordingly, karana is that cause which immediately precedes the effect. So, in that case what will happen is paramarsha will be the karana, and then paramarsha will be called anumana. So, sometimes vyapti smarana is called anumana pramana, or sometimes paramarsha is called anumana pramana. Whereas in contrast, we find that in other systems, particularly in Buddhism and Jainism, they do not make such a distinction between pramana and prama. They say that pramana and prama are nothing but 2 aspects of one and the same cognition. So, for them the resultant knowledge itself becomes anumana, and then there is no anumiti which is different from anumana, which is separate from anumana. Now, we find that in Nyaya there is an attempt to understand the inferential process that takes place in one's mind on the model of the inference for others. So, inference for oneself and inference for others, that is swarthanumana and pararthanumana, the Naiyayikas try to show some kind of isomorphism between the 2. Now, we will see how that isomorphism is shown. But we will have also to note that there will be 2 major differences, although both these 2 processes go in parallel with each other. The 2 major differences will be that in pararthanumana there is a step called pratijna, the very first step, that one declares what one is going to prove, what one is going to show. Whereas in swarthanumana, in inference for oneself, you cannot have something like pratijna. So, in swarthanumana there will be only 4 steps, In Pararthanumana there will be 5 steps. This is one difference. The second difference is, in the case of Swarthanumana, there is a series of cognitions, but those cognitions do not necessarily have propositional form, whereas in Pararthanumana every step is presented as a kind of proposition. So, Pararthanumana, the 5 steps in Pararthanumana are propositional in nature, whereas the 4 steps in Swarthanumana, they are not propositional in nature, but they are just cognitions which occur one after the other. So, this is how we can understand this isomorphism between Pararthanumana and Swarthanumana. In Pararthanumana there is Pratijna, but in Swarthanumana there is no correlate of that. In Pararthanumana there is Hetu as the second step, and corresponding to that in Swarthanumana we have Hetu Jnana. In Pararthanumana there is Udaharana, which is the third step. In Swarthanumana there is the second stage, and that is Vyapti Smarana, recollection of Vyapti, and this Vyapti, as we have seen, is included in Udaharana, which is a part of Pararthanumana. And after that we have Upanaya in Pararthanumana, whereas in Swarthanumana we have Paramarsha, which corresponds to that, and we will see that, we can see that the form of Upanaya and the form of Paramarsha, they are almost identical. And ultimately, in the case of Pararthanumana we have conclusion, that is Nigamana, and in Swarthanumana we have the resultant cognition, which is called Anumiti. Now we can, if we have mastered this technique, we have, if we are acquainted with the basic terms of inference, then we should be able to understand any inference, any other inference which is presented in the context of Indian logical discussion. Just as we talked about one instance, namely smoke fire instance. Similarly, another popular type of inference which is used by many systems in their logical discussions is the inference of impermanence of a word, Shabdaha Anityaha. This inference is often used by Buddhists and also by Nyaya Vaisheshikas, and many times this inference is used against Mimamsakas for whom Shabda is Nitya. So, Nyayikas and Buddhists argue that Shabda is non-eternal, a word is non-eternal because it is a product like a pot, unlike ether. Now, we have to understand this inference. So, how do we go about? For understanding inference, we first ask what is the inference about, and that this inference is about Shabda, that is word, and now this word becomes Paksha of this inference. The next question we ask, what is attempted to be proved about a word? Then the answer is that the word is non-eternal, Shabda is Anitya. So, Anityatva becomes the Sadhya Dharma, non-eternality becomes the Sadhya Dharma, that is the target property. Then the next question we ask, on what basis do we prove that Shabda has this target property, namely Anityatva? Then we say that because it is a product, because it is Krutaka. So, Shabdaha Anityaha Krutakatvat. So, this Krutakatva becomes the reason property, that is the property on the basis of which Sadhya is proved, that is, it is called Hetu. And then we ask the question, what is the subject, that is, what is the Paksha likened with? The answer is with a pot, that is Shabdaha Anityaha Krutakatvat Ghatavat. So, like a pot. So, pot becomes the positive instance or Anvaya Drishtanta, and then what is the subject contrasted with? Then the answer is that it is contrasted with Akasha. So, that is, word is non-eternal because it is a product, like a pot, unlike ether, then ether or akasha becomes the negative. Then what is the positive concomitance? How do we understand vyapti here? Then in this case, wherever there is hetu, there is sadhya. This is the general form of vyapti. Here we will say whatever is a product is non-eternal. Yat kritakam tad anityam yatha ghataha. This will be the positive concomitance or anvaya vyapti, and then we can also talk of negative concomitance or vyatireka vyapti, that is whatever is eternal is a non-product. Yat nityam tat akrutakam yatha akasham, like ether. Another point we have to consider while understanding the Nyaya theory of Anumana, that modern scholars of logic many times interpret this Anumana in terms of Aristotelian logic, and therefore, in Aristotelian logic, for example, we talk of the inference like all humans are mortal, Socrates is human, therefore Socrates is mortal. Now, here we talk of three terms and three steps. So the three terms are called major term, minor term and middle term. Now, in this particular inference, all humans are mortal, Socrates is human and therefore Socrates is mortal. Socrates is minor term, mortal is the major term and human is the middle term. So, in many discussions in Indian logic, we are told that hetu is nothing but middle term and paksha is minor term and sadhya is major term, and in this way it goes on. But we have to note that Aristotelian logic or Western logic mainly centers around the notion of validity. So, what is a good inference? A valid inference is a good inference. But in Indian logic, in Indian theory of inference, we are not concerned very much with validity, although we can say that when the analogical form of inference was developed into a valid form of inference, then validity was an important aspect of that inference, but validity was not the mark of acceptability. Validity was rather taken for granted. What was important was truth of the conclusion. So, we can say that rather than validity, soundness of inference or truth of the conclusion was of important concern for Indian logicians, Nyaya logicians, Buddhist logicians, rather than just validity. Thank you.